I realized what I was doing wasn't right. What I needed to do was focus on loving first. And that starts with me understanding how to love myself, which means there needs to be some sort of balance involved in it. I need to have some sort of work-life balance. I can't just repeat what everyone in my family, especially the men in my family, have done from generation to generation to generation. Everyone dying young, dying early, strictly from stress, right? Like it just couldn't happen. And it's been a couple of years now, and I can tell you with confidence, I am a different person now. I show up and I serve people better because I'm loving them first.
If you've outgrown your current path, this is your invitation to step out of the hustle and into your purpose and passion. It can be healing, it can be fun, and it can be strategic. This is where you become the boss goddess in your niche and bring your dreams to life. Hi, and welcome back to the Boss Goddess podcast. This is Barcy, your host. And today's episode is a different episode than I had originally planned. The episode I'd planned was going to focus on how to build a business using podcasting while also sharing with you about a really great solution around how to find guests for your show or be a guest on a show. Sort of a practical take about how this brand called PodMatch helps make podcasting easier or helps you get your feet wet by guesting, and how the founder, Alex Sanfilippo, who's my guest today, was led to create this business so that you can learn about a tool that you can start using right away, which you still can do, even if you don't have a podcast, and about how podcasting is such a great medium to express your message with, which we do touch on, but it's a little less practical and much deeper. This conversation is so much deeper than all of that. I've known Alex for 5 years now, and he's been on the show a couple of times before, which I'll link to in the show notes. But these questions led us down a path of depth, divinity, and raw honesty in ways that I wasn't expecting. In fact, I kind of threw out the outline completely at one point. I feel that the way this conversation took shape is a testament to the reason this medium feels sacred to me. It's not just a transactional moment that flies past you on a screen in seconds that you have to recreate constantly in the way that content works. It's not just content, it's connection. It has the ability to change lives. I've always connected with Alex because he approaches his entire business model this way, from a place of connection, not transaction, which was so refreshing because the way we met was actually through a cold sales email that I received from Alex when he was just starting his business. And I'm so glad that I didn't delete it like I normally do. So in this episode, Alex shares a very vulnerable shift that he had to make to redefine what was motivating these values that quite literally brought him to his knees recently and caused him to reorder his approach to serving. If you're curious in how podcasting as a medium can be the container that awakens you, evolves you, creates deep connection and resonance, can be the place you explore your passion or solve your most pressing problems, or unfold the business you've been dreaming of, or connect with the minds that have gone before you, or is the ecosystem you build to be the one that has gone before to guide others, then keep listening. But first, here's a little more about Alex Sanfilippo. Alex Sanfilippo is a podcast host and the founder of a podcasting software company specifically focused on independent podcast hosts and their guests to elevate their voices through podcasting and be heard, called PodMatch. In addition, Alex is also the host of the top-rated podcast, Podcasting Made Simple, and is one of the most sought-after educators and public speakers in the podcasting industry. Without further ado, here is my conversation with my dear friend, Alex. Welcome back, Alex.
Barcy, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be back with you here today.
I'm so excited to have you. One, because you're one of my favorite people in podcasting and in general. I haven't seen you in a while, so it's just nice to be with you in this space and to kind of talk about some of the things that I super love, which is podcasting.
Yeah, Parsi, that's a mutual feeling. I remember we first met online, then we met in person at a few different events. And actually, I have a story. I'll never forget this one. I'm quite certain it was Texas, and I think it was Austin, is where we were walking around. We were going from wherever the event space was we were both speaking at. We were walking to go get dinner with some people, and this really fancy car drove by. Well, that was early for me in my business. So I still had dreams, and I've always been a car guy. And I saw it drive by. I'm like, what a cool car. Like, how do people get cars like that? And you're like, I know someone who teaches a course on how to buy really expensive exotic cars.
Oh, yeah.
And I went home and I bought that course. And not a day has gone by where I don't think about buying an expensive car. And I give you credit for that, if credit's the right word. But that's one of my fond memories of us getting to hang out and spend time together. So it's been great knowing you over the years and getting just to build our friendship.
I love that. It's so funny. I forgot about that. And yes, that's when I was like geeking out on McLarens. So it was a podcast episode that I found. And this guy does teach courses, and that's how I found him originally, et cetera, et cetera. So I love that you dove in deeper on that. And yeah, I have my car goals too. So I get it.
Right there with you. I love it. That's great.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're going to start at the beginning a touch because one, it's been a while that you've been on the show, and someone who may be listening now may have not caught those couple of episodes from a few years back. But one, you started your business in 2020. You have a business called PodMatch, which I mentioned in the intro, and it's a really cool platform where guests and hosts can find each other, just to quickly summarize. And you decided to lean into this new industry, new-ish, called podcasting, but you worked in a totally different industry prior to that. Can you just tell us a little bit about why you chose this and like how you made that decision and what you were doing before?
Yeah, sure. So when I think back to my former life, I'll say at this point, or career, it was 15 years I did in big corporate. So I worked for a publicly traded organization that was focused on the aerospace industry, parts manufacturing. And so I wasn't an astronaut, skydiver, or fighter pilot. Like, I don't know why varsity people are like, oh, what did you do? I'm like, I worked behind a computer and we were manufacturing parts, right? So it
Yeah.
was a really great job. I loved it. And so I did 15 years there. I worked my way up from being a part-time receiving clerk at a very young age. I was fresh out of high school when I started there. And when I left, I was at the C-suite level. And it was a really cool experience. I loved every part of it. And leaving was a bittersweet moment for me, for sure. It was just something kind of changed along the way that made me realize it wasn't going to be a forever type of thing. And so as much as I loved operations, manufacturing, sales, marketing, like all the things I got to do there, and as much as I learned from it, it was actually when the company went public, because at first it was a private company. When it went public, I realized that the culture shifted quite a bit, at least at the seat that I was sitting at. And there was actually a really specific situation that happened that caused me to want to seek something else for myself. I ran 5 divisions of the company, and one of those divisions did a really good job saving a lot of money. And we're part of a multi-billion-dollar organization. So like a lot of money was like a lot of money. And so I
Hmm.
was so excited. It was more than 10% in our margin, like increased. I was really thrilled. And I worked right down the hallway from the CEO on it, and that's who I reported directly to. So I was like, I'm going to go down to Paul's office. I'm going to tell him what we did here. So I walked in and I was just like, hey, did you see the numbers from this? And he goes, yeah, Alex, I saw them. And I could hear like the distress in his voice. And so I was like, well, you realize we made up an additional 10% margin, right? Like, I want to make sure that's clear. He's like, no, I saw it. I know what it is. And he just like wouldn't even make eye contact. And I was like, well, what's wrong? I'm like, what happened? He's like, man, we didn't tell the shareholders we're doing that. We didn't tell the people that are above us that we were going to be doing that. Like, we need to talk to the board. We're going to do something that substantial, that big. Like, people need to be in the know. I
Hmm.
wasn't in trouble necessarily. It was just more of a, hey, don't do that again without talking about it for a few months first. And
Hmm.
if I go back to prior when that company was not publicly traded, that type of thing was celebrated, was rewarded. It was something that was really cool. But now we kind of reach this point, which I guess is the goal of most companies. So I'm not saying it was a bad thing. It just wasn't as celebrated the way that I thought that it should have been. And that was the first time I left his office to walk back to mine, and the walk felt long.
Hmm.
I had never had that happen before. Like, every day I was there was I say every day. Most days there were a joy to be there, right? There's ups and downs, of course, but I was in a really good season there and really enjoyed it. And so I just remember getting back to my office, looking out the window and thinking, I think I need to leave. I think it's time for me to go on to something else. And that's kind of what started the whole thing, Darcy. And podcasting wasn't the first thing. I tried speaking, I tried coaching. I thought web design was fun. I did that. I did some writing stuff, all kinds of things. Like, that's just some of them. Failure after failure after failure after failure. I don't know what it was. Nothing worked. And I can
Mhm.
remember sitting at home and just like talking to my wife about it. I'm like, I don't think I'm good at this business thing. Like, did I just get lucky? Like, why can't I like do this outside of this company? Like, I've done so well here. I'm the youngest person in the C-suite level. I'm the only person with hair or hair that isn't white, right? Like, and like, how can I not do this for myself? And so, kind of just through some brainstorming stuff, I finally just decided, like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start a podcast. I'm gonna talk to people who've successfully left a 9 to 5 job and just see what they did and see if there's something I can learn from it. And that's what kicked the whole thing off. And now I think back and it sounds brilliant. It really wasn't that brilliant back then. It was more desperation, I think. And I knew that I did enjoy communicating and talking with people, meeting people was always such a fun thing for me. So I started a podcast literally to see, like, is there a formula here? Is there something that I can be doing differently? And that's kind of what opened me up to the world of podcasting. And that's kind of the backstory of what led me to podcasting, just as a very small side hustle and something creative for me to do.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I don't think I knew that. I don't think I knew that about your story. One, that you tried a bunch of things and that you were feeling like it wasn't working, which I so relate to because I like to do a lot of things and I like to try a lot of things. And it gets frustrating when a series of them don't work out. And it does take a lot of energy and time to try to bring something to life. So, one, I relate. Two, I think a lot of people will who create, because a lot of people listening are creators or creatives who are wanting to kind of take control of their lives in the way that you did during this point in your story. And it really kind of feeds into what I want to talk about today because podcasting came into my life in ways that helped me find myself and what I wanted to do next in several occasions. And it continues to meet me where I am. And there's something really like unreal about that. I don't think other mediums really do that in the same way. And it allows people in the way that you just shared, where you can kind of glean, information, energy, like direction. You can get so much out of the experience of bringing someone on that you wouldn't normally run into in life, right? Like there's something really unique about that platform. If you are ready to say yes to redefining what is next for you with podcasting, then I want to invite you to get my Activate Your Passion with Podcast Blueprint. Just go to boss-goddess.co/activate. This is your free 5-day guide where each day I'll send you an email with guidance and a downloadable prompt, exercise, or tool that you can take some action with to begin to get clear on how to pursue what lights you up with the power of podcasting, from how to get started with your topic to how to build your own ecosystem that you can monetize later. Let's redefine what comes next for you so you can step into your goddess era. Just go to boss-goddess.co/activate.
Absolutely. I think that's what caused me to fall in love with it, actually. Like when I started it, like I had no thoughts at this point still of starting something in podcasting. I did it because it was an interesting medium to me. I liked it. I think I just realized how much I liked it once I got into it. Like the first thing I fell in love with was podcasting. Like that's what I fell in love with was the art of podcasting, like the art of creating. And I think that again, so many people listen to this today, like they're right there. And by the way, if you're like me and you're like, man, I can't seem to make anything work, I'm still in this job that I don't want to be at, please don't give up. And it might not be podcasting for you. It might be podcasting for you. But at the end of the day, don't give up. Like if I would have given up, I think I would have been the guy who stopped 3 feet from gold. The whole idea of, right, like you're almost there and you quit just before you arrive. Like, please, if you're hearing this, don't stop. I thought I was going to. I thought it wasn't going to work. But the thing is, I just became so passionate and excited about podcasting that I fell in love with the medium. And then I started, like you said, Barcy, like you fall in love with the people as well that make it up, right? Your guests, the other people you meet in the industry. Like you and I got connected through podcasting. Like I don't like to think we're going to know each other forever. Like, how does that happen, right? Like, it's just like such a unique medium to be able to facilitate this type of friendships that can be formed. So for me, again, it was the people, it was podcasting first, then the people. And that's what really made me decide that, like, I wanted to do this, right? Like, sure, I'm going to learn how to become an entrepreneur because I'm talking to some really brilliant people, but I wanted to be in podcasting. I knew that when I kind of got into this.
Thank you. Yeah, that really helps bridge the next turn you took, which is like that fire, right? We've got to ignite that fire somehow. And it does come through trial and error sometimes by just trying new things. When we're really good in one arena and we're asked to walk through new doors or walk a new path or ask new questions of ourselves, it can really be a little bit of a path first. But when we click with something, everything can change. And it doesn't have to be like hard work at that point. Like it's really just enjoying the fire and then asking like, what next? What else? Where do I want to be? What do I love about this? And it sounds like that's what allowed you to sort of lean into something that already had so much of components that would fuel you to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly what it did. And, I actually, for anyone who's hearing this and like, okay, Alex learned how to be an entrepreneur, like I'll share what I learned over 100 plus, I think it was 158 episodes I did of that show. It was called Creating a Brand. It's about like the art of creating a brand was the idea. 158 episodes, I think. Maybe don't quote me on that part. And I'm oversimplifying what I learned from some of the most brilliant minds I've ever met. But basically, there's just 4 steps involved in becoming a full-time creative, a full-time entrepreneur. And it's one, find an area of passion. For me, that became podcasting. Next is to get into the community where you're passionate. So for me, I started meeting podcasters, started speaking at events, going to all of them, meeting as many people as I could that were in podcasting. Next is to find a simple problem that group of people is struggling with. So for me, what are podcasters struggling with? And we already talked about PodMatch connects guests and hosts for interviews. Especially at that time, that was a big pain point. Still today is a big pain point for most, right? So I knew that was the problem. And the last thing is to offer a solution. As fast as you possibly can, offer that solution. Those 4 steps are what I learned and ultimately implemented. So it's like I found like it's so weird to say still, it's like surreal. Like I got into podcasting just to learn those 4 things, but I ended up saying I'm staying in podcasting, but applying these 4 things. And so it's been quite a journey and really fun.
It's been really cool to watch too, because I think I met you in 2020. So your
Yeah.
business was just kicking
Yep.
off. Yeah. So that's just fun to see that evolution. But along the way, like, so for me, podcasting in general and business in general feel like this sort of personal development course that I'm taking on a daily basis in a great way. And it really helps me as a host. It helps with my self awareness because I've got to craft these questions. I've got to figure out, what's going to inspire you to tell a story, what's going to connect with my audience. How can I serve them? It's really the 4 things you just shared in every episode, right? Like I'm kind of trying to create that every time I get someone in this room with me, right? To have a conversation and to help my listener do something in their life that solves a problem. And that's caused me to have many self-awareness moments. In fact, PodMatch was a part of one of those stories, which I'll share in a moment. But I'm curious what your take is on that journey. Do you notice that as well?
100%. It's the hidden value of podcasting. As a guest or as a host, it's like the thing that I think everyone wants to discredit. They're like, how do I get more business? How do I grow a brand? How do I monetize it? And all those things are great. But at the end of the day, your self-mastery, your self-awareness, like growing that stuff, I don't know if you can really put a price point on that. And I can think of so many times after I started sharing my story where I learned how to articulate it, that I was in situations where I got that opportunity to do that, not behind a microphone, like in person. And people were just like, how did you just like share that in a way that connected with me? And it's funny because a lot of times it was me being a guest on a podcast and they reminded me of a host who asked me the same question. So I answer the same way the host liked me to respond. And people were like, I feel like you're just like speaking to my soul right now. And that still to this day happens a lot. And I'm really not like the most well-spoken guy. I have filler words still. I talk too fast, too loud, like all those things, right? But the reality is I'm on this journey. I believe it's a lifelong journey. But I could not agree with you more. I mean, again, that to me, that is a hidden value, the hidden benefit of podcasting on either side of the microphone is you really learn this stuff. And it starts with like this internal discovery because all it takes is one host or one guest to ask you a question that you've never been asked before, never thought about to say, I got to do some soul searching here, right? I got to do some deep digging now. And that is a gift when that happens.
Yeah, I love to throw people off that way.
Right?
Whenever
You are
I
good at
can.
that.
It's truly often coming from that same place of like wanting the answer, like wanting to know for myself. Like, the question I just threw to you is kind of a self-serving answer too. Like, this is how it's helped me. Has it helped you that way too? Because I'm trying to, I think we're constantly trying to normalize our experience as we walk through life. And being with other people helps us do that. Podcasting, when people listen, helps the listener feel like they're not, over here by themselves doing something crazy or trying to figure something out that just feels impossible and no one's done this before. That's how it feels sometimes. And I think that that's what we get out of this experience too, is that normalization.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I think too, each of us when we're alone, our deepest, darkest secrets, our thoughts, the things that we're like, oh man, am I the only person who struggles with this? This brings it to light and shows you that you're not alone. And I think that for many of us, personal development begins when we realize we can talk about this and we're not the only one like this. I think that's the first thing, our own like internal like sin or shame, right? Makes us feel that like I'm wrong at my core and no one else is like this. The reality is most of us are probably like that. And this is giving that
Yeah.
platform to be able to say, you know what, I can explore these things and it's okay. And I can grow and develop. And I feel it all kind of starts at that line of not trying to hide everything, right? And so for anyone
Yeah.
who's like, hey, I'm a creative and I want to get my word out there, just start getting it out there. I mean, like, this is a beautiful medium for that. So I'm probably jumping ahead. I'm sure we'll talk about that more, but Barcy, sorry, but back over to you.
No, no, please jump ahead. We will go wherever it makes sense to go. Okay, so I want to talk about PodMatch a little
Sure.
bit right now because my story links to that. So I was using your platform, and as a host, I have my profile, and it's really nice when you're a host because you're getting a lot of the pitches. You don't have to seek out guests too much. At least that was my experience. And they were just kind of coming to me. And at the time, actually, I think I just had you on around this time. We were talking a lot about podcasting again at the time. And I hadn't fully leaned into talking about like spirituality, which I talk about a lot more now. And I talk about, just sort of like how the energetics work in life and how that's connected for me. And like that's kind of more of the conversation now. But at the time, I was like, this is how you grow your show. This is what people are doing for their community. And this is how we did this with this client. And I was really kind of leaning into that at the time. And I had a begin series to help people do that. That's what the conversation was for like a couple of months at least, maybe 3-4 months at the time. And I talked about creativity. That was always part of the show. But for some reason, all of the pitches I was getting were all these people who had these big spiritual transformations that wanted to come on my show. And I was like, okay, like they really ran the gambit. There was 2 different people who became channelers, like people who channeled, like 2 different types of channelers too. Like one felt like they channeled the universe, like they were speaking directly to the maker, whatever that meant to them. And another person had this big experience where they were getting these like downloads from, I forget what, but like, let's say spirit guides or something. Another woman identified as a witch. Another person like left their big job and went into like Kundalini coaching and like life force, like just this all at once. And I was like, what is going on? And I didn't really know what to say to them because I didn't understand it and I didn't see how they could fit on the show at the time. But there was something interesting happening and I didn't want to just push it aside. I wanted to challenge myself to get curious about whatever was going on. And I believe in sort of things happening for you and timing and all of that good stuff. And I noticed what was coming up for me were these like personal blocks. Like, why didn't I want to have these conversations with this group of people? What was it about it? Was I judging them? Like, was I having issue with like their story for some reason? And if I'm being completely honest, that's where my block sat. And I was like, oh, well, then I definitely have to have these conversations because I'm the one in the way. And I don't know what will come from the experience for me to like make a discovery. So I can decide if I air them later. I'll just bring them on the show. And so I started to record them. And then I didn't know what to do again because I was like, whoa, these stories are amazing, but also like hard to believe because they're so like almost magical sounding, some of them. And others, I was like, oh, is my audience going to think I'm crazy because I haven't brought anyone on like this before? And all of these, again, blocks and like reasons to not lean in. And so I didn't release them for like a number of months. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I did. And my downloads went up and I started to change. Like I started to learn things about myself through these conversations. And they really, really started to shape my own self awareness. Like we were just talking about self awareness. It really helped me get into where my misalignments were with what I was doing and where I wanted to expand my conversation more and like what kind of transformation I was walking towards. And like all of these things started to open up that I didn't sign up for. It was just kind of happening, but in this really beautiful way. And I've brought some of them back on the show since then and had more conversations with a few of them that I really connected with. And it really changed the shape of the show and it changed the format. We started really leaning into people who had this sort of like beginning, middle, end transformational story. And it just like changed the way I hosted too. So I just wanted to share that with you because something as simple as like, I'm going to go onto PodMatch and I'm going to find some guests turned into this like big shift in my life. So thank you.
We're learning things about each other here today. I had no idea that this happened. And I would love to say it's typical results that guests reach out to you. That's not, you have a really good show and you've always been really good in the space. So it makes sense that your show would have that experience with just people reaching out. That doesn't happen for
Oh,
everybody, but one day maybe. We're working toward it. But that's such a cool thing. Like, I love that you leaned into it because I think I was thinking about myself. I'm like, I'd probably just say no, 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 and move on, right? Like, but you were like, maybe there's something here. And I saw that shift in you because I knew you at that time, right? So like I've seen
you
like that
did.
shift happen. I didn't realize it was because these conversations you were having. And that is a perfect example of this personal development stuff. Like
Mhm.
you made a change because you felt that, you know what, maybe there's something actually here. And that's always hard to like, it's like at the soul level, right? The thing we can't find inside of us. It's
Yeah.
like something might be needing to change here. And maybe it starts with me. I love that that was your experience and it led to more. And it's obviously opened a lot of doors for you as well. So thank you for sharing that. How cool is that?
Yeah, so cool. And I guess I share it one because I wanted to share that story with you specifically, Alex. But for someone who's listening, like one, if you've been listening to the show for a while, now you can understand the arc there and where the shift happened. But also, it caused me to question my own compassion, question my own judgments, question where I was not making space for others in ways that I didn't realize there was a blind spot. Because if I'm going to be compassionate and invite people into my world from the place of like humanness, right? Then we have to be curious about people's stories and where they're coming from and why they want to share. And those were some of the most moving conversations I've had where they've never been on a podcast before and they felt really compelled to be on my show for some reason and, cried or had that experience where no one's asked them, a certain set of questions before and they had to really dig deep. And they were just these very moving like sessions. It felt like more than like episode recordings.
I love that you mentioned the word compassion. I think that empathy and compassion go kind of hand in hand some ways. Like when you're compassionate on somebody, it's because you want to see a situation of theirs change. And it's not in a
Mhm.
forceful way where you're like, you're going to make this change, right? It's more so like just listening. And I think that if there's anyone I've met in the podcasting space, no one's a better listener than you. And having a conversation with you, like I can tell you're hearing me. And that's like always just been like a really cool thing. And so it makes sense that people would see your show, they'd hear you and be like, that's the person I want to talk to because she's actually going to, Barcy's going to hear me, right? And people want to feel heard. And most of us, we're married to our questions more than we're married to the actual flow of the conversation. Because like I could tell you my deepest, darkest secret right now. And if you were just a normal host, you'd be like, cool story, Alex. So how'd you get started in business, right? Like, and I've never seen you do that with anybody. Like anybody, you're 100% there, and I think that that's something that's always spoke to me. And I'm sure that that's why people are seeing your show, saying that's the one I want to listen to. That's the one I want to be on. So I hope that encourages you a little bit.
Oh, thank you, Alex. That just feels good in general, but also always nice to have a reflection moment like that. And it's, again, it just comes back to this like human experience that we get to have in this kind of moment, this kind of setup. So I'm going to allow that to land. Thank you for that. I'm receiving it. Yeah. But so anyway, Alex, just kidding.
I mean, you do have to segue the conversation now. So
Well, well, I mean, I think it's easy to do because it's all so tied together. And I don't think that anything human, if you pay attention, anything we do comes back to like this. It comes back to like trying to do our best and to be loved and to be seen and to be heard. Like everything you just shared comes back to that. That's like at the essence of what business really is, right? It's like solving a problem. And that's what you did when you started podcasting. You were just trying to solve your own problem, right? That's what all of us are doing all the time. And we find different ways to try to access that. So my segue is to reflect on your business journey because so you started in 2020 and you just celebrated 5 years. You said you started in June, right? We're recording this in June.
yeah, yeah. That's not when I had the idea. Interestingly enough, like people were like, "Ooh, 2020, it's a scary time to do that." And I think the assumption is I lost my job, so I was like scrambling for something else. But the reality is I started work on this as a side hustle at the very beginning of 2020. I went to a conference and just so you know, it was before COVID. There was over 2,000 people at this podcasting conference, and that's where I discovered the problem. So again, like the idea is like passion, community. So I was speaking in front of the community, about 2,000 people there, and I just asked, hey, if anyone's willing to talk to me after I'm done speaking, like I'd love to just chat with you for a minute. I took pen and paper. I wrote down their name, their email address, and what they said they were struggling with. And I heard a lot of things that day, but 100 people said, I'm having trouble finding the right guest for my show. Keyword being there, the right guest, right? Like we can find people that will say yes, but it's
Yeah.
finding the right ones that I think really matters. I would say it's time consuming once I do. And so I went home saying, this is the problem. Let's find the solution for this. So it was actually March 10th, 2020 is when the same day a bunch of things happened. I called my future business partner and said, hey, I've got this idea. Do you want to be part of this? And I kind of pitched it to him, not knowing that just the week before he finished up a multiple year project he'd been working on. He's a developer. And so I was like, I'm not a
Okay.
developer. I need someone to help develop. And he's like, yeah, sure, man. I got capacity. It was just so funny. Like on the phone, I was like, you want to think about it? He's like, nope, I'm good. And, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So I just had a lawyer that was like a friend draft up some documentation. So it was me, him, and my wife, Alicia. The three of us were partners. And March 10th, 2020, we hit the ground running that day, all of us having other jobs. And so we had
Okay.
full-time gigs and we just started. And then on June 15th, 2020 is when we launched. Because you don't mind the spiritual element of it, I got to share why my business partner, I called him, said it that fast. And this is like, I didn't
Please.
know this until months later, and I wish I would have. But like, I'm a follower of Jesus. They are as well. So they're like at church on the Sunday before I called them. I called them on a Tuesday, and so it was Sunday. Some
Mhm.
lady that they did not know walked up to my now business partner's wife and said, hey, I feel like God told me to tell you something, so I'm just going to say it. And she just goes, your husband's going to get a call from somebody that wants to start a company with him on Tuesday, and he's supposed to take that job or that opportunity. And then that was it. And she's like, I don't know what that means. I don't know who you are. I don't know if your husband is. I'm going to leave. And so I just happened to be the one who called him. And so his immediate yes was just like, this is
Here's the
clearly
call.
divine, right? Like, and they didn't bother telling me that for a very long time. And I was like, that would have been really reassuring to know that from day one, right? Anyway, I share all that just to
Yeah.
say yes. So that short bit of time, March 10th to June 15th, that was the creation of the initial version of PodMatch that went from nothing, an idea on a whiteboard, to a full launch.
Okay, I got chills when you shared that, which usually happens when someone's telling a really deep truth. I'll get chills. That's like just so true. So that's so cool. Thanks for sharing that. I've had some experiences like that's how I got my house that I live in now that we were able to buy. It was just through just sort of like information that I was able to access. It's like sounds super weird, but we can tell that story another time. But I relate to it. I know that stuff does happen. Like it's wild when it does, especially when it's delivered by a stranger, but it's hard to ignore
Right.
when something like occurs.
Yep.
And that's cool that you got the quick yes. It's just interesting to see like your side of it where you're like, oh, I've got this idea, I'm working on this thing, like, and all the energy you had to put towards like asking this person and wondering like what they're going to say. And if they say no, then what are you going to do? Like, what's my next move? Who do I ask? Like all of the things we do when we think we're working by ourselves, right? When like we have to make it happen, there's all this stuff going on that is part of something bigger, is what I'm getting at,
Yeah.
that is working with you that made that moment just sort of boop, perfectly come together.
Absolutely. I can say it better. And I think that's the first time I've actually ever shared this. So thank you for creating the space where that type of thing's okay to talk about. I really appreciate that.
No, I love that you're sharing, and I love that you're sharing it here, of course. So, speaking of that, so I'm curious, and this is a little different than what I shared that this question might be, but from then to now, it's been 5 years. What has been like your biggest? Okay, there's two ways we can think about this. I was going to say, what's been your biggest sort of like transformation or thing that you've learned, but it could also be like, what happened that you weren't expecting? So I think that's more interesting. Like, what was the journey like that you couldn't have predicted?
So many things.
So many things. Yeah, I
So many things. But
bet.
you know, when I think about it, and this kind of goes to like when you're kind of thinking about both sides of this question, I think it goes hand in hand quite a bit. I come from a family of workaholics. And you know this about me, Barcy, like outside this, like you know that's like my background. I did really well in big corporate because I worked harder and
Mm,
a lot longer hours than most people would ever be willing to. And that was a badge of honor for a long time. Should have never been a badge of honor. That's not a good thing. And so many
mm.
people, they laugh at it. I'm like, oh, I come from a family of workaholics. We're like, ha, ha, ha. Like, if I say I come from a family of alcoholics, nobody laughs at that, right? And the reality is, this is
Yeah.
serious though. And it's different, obviously, right? One is more immediate life threatening, and the other one might not be. But you burn yourself to the ground. And any people that I know that are workaholics, they tend to have way worse health issues and live a lot less
Stress is the number one killer
There you
that
go.
exists.
Right.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's a point that needs to be heard because alcoholism, I don't know where that lives on the list in terms of, death count, which sounds terrible, but it's true. You're speaking to someone who did burn herself out because I also come from a family of workaholics, particularly my dad, and the value came from working hard, not necessarily just putting effort towards something because that's different. That's part of it, but that's the nice way to do things. Just put in effort. We're overworking. I hear you. It is the number one killer,
Mm.
stress. It really is.
I hope that kind of sinks in with everybody because I think a lot of us creatives, we get this idea in our heads and I love this about creatives. Like we are not willing to give up. And so many of us, we just
Mm,
keep on going, but we could run ourselves into the ground and then you're forced to give up, right? Like
yeah.
some of the greatest creators I know are the ones they hit rock bottom. And it's like, why? Like, I don't know. I'm like, it's because you work yourself to death almost. Like you were literally killing yourself trying to make something work. And maybe it did work, but like at what cost? And so
Yeah.
I'm saying a lot here, but basically what it came down to, this is one of my biggest personal takeaways from the entire PodMatch journey that I've been on for 5+ years now. I had two of my core values backwards. And so
Mm,
I've had the same core values for a long time, and I've kind of changed the wording around them. But what I kind of made the top was this idea of serving others, seeking to serve. And I even like wear a shirt a lot of times that says the word seek to serve on it. Because for me, it's like I want to serve. I had the right heart. Everything I've done was to serve somebody else, to help somebody else, but at the cost of my own health, of my own well being, of my own happiness, of my own just self. Like I put myself aside to help other people. And I mentioned like I follow Jesus. When I read the Bible, I even read the Bible wrong. I was like, Jesus
mm,
showed up to serve, and I need to serve like that. And I missed something
mm,
that's far more central and far more core than that. And so for the first few years of the business, especially, literally first 3 years, I'd say, I was in this serve mentality, which again, that's a good thing. It's not bad. So I'm not saying like I was doing something terribly wrong. Like it's honorable in many ways, but it shouldn't be what's first. And I actually hit this point of stress, anxiety, all that stuff, like just came to a close. And like, I don't know how to describe it than like, and I don't mean to like get emotional about it, but it still like feels like it was just yesterday. But I felt like the walls were closing in on me. And I was like standing working because I'm like a standing working guy. And I felt like I couldn't stand anymore.
mm,
And for me, that was like a really bad feeling. And I'm like praying, I'm like, God, what is going on here? Like, I'm trying to serve the best I can. I just can't get ahead, man. Like, I just can't. And the walls are literally closing in on me, it feels like. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, when I can't stand anymore, right? I can't keep on serving. At that point, I just remember like I felt like this sense of peace, felt this sense of love. And for me, I realized at that moment that I had it backwards. Serving is great, but not if you don't love first. And I kind of forgot that. Yes, I can serve till I'm blue in the face. There's always someone to serve, right? I could walk out my door right now and walk less than 10 minutes and find someone who's homeless who needs to be served. I could. And it's not a bad thing, but like, is my heart first centered around this idea of love? And we can't love others if we don't love ourselves. I had this like realization, and like I can't call it anything other than like divine. It was like just felt like God like met me where I was. I felt this overwhelming sense of peace. Like my burdens were released in an instant when I realized I'm like, it's about love. It's not about service. And I can't make this stuff up. My wife walks in the door a few minutes later after I literally was sitting in the corner crying, like was sitting in the corner of my office just crying, which is not like me. I'm not like I don't mind crying, but like it's not like a natural thing that comes up for me. And I got myself together and I'm standing there and she walked in and she goes, Alex, I was thinking about it. She goes, and I know you're really good at serving people, but I think you need to remember to love people. And that starts with you.
mm.
And then I was like, okay, thank you. And then she just walked away. And like, I typically would like engage with her a little bit more, but like, I was like, you need to leave because I'm going to cry again. Right. Like, and that
Yes.
happened like all in this same little stretch, unprompted. And I ended up not working much the rest of the day. I stared out the window for a while. I went for a walk and I just remembered that like I realized what I was doing wasn't right. What I needed to do was focus on loving first. And that starts with me understanding how to love myself, which means there needs to be some sort of balance involved in it. I need to have some sort of work-life balance. I can't just repeat what everyone in my family, especially the men in my family, have done from generation to generation to generation. Everyone dying young, dying early, strictly from stress, right? Like it just couldn't
Yeah.
happen. And it's been a couple of years now, and I can tell you with confidence, Barcy, like I am a different person now. I show up and I serve people better because I'm loving them first. And that became my number one core value. Loving people was on there, but now my number one core value, literally, it's the words love first. And then the next thing is
Mm.
seek to serve, but not until I'm learning to love. And that starts with me. And then it's projected on how I love others as well. Anyway, thank you for giving me the space to share that. There's been plenty of business things I've learned, of course, and all kinds of things have happened. It's been such a fun journey, but nothing is above what I just shared with you.
Oh, I super feel that. And I'm emotional with you because it lands, and I'm in a similar place of really reevaluating where I put myself on that list. And I shared a moment ago that, I am sort of recovering from burnout at the moment, and it's taking longer to build new things because of what happens when you have to heal from burnout. It does take you out. And one, I'm really glad that you didn't completely hit the wall with burnout, because it does require like however long it takes to heal from, and that you found sort of the mental curiosity in that moment to ask, because it kind of ties into what you shared a moment ago where, it's you're not alone. And even just asking and posing the question, you got an answer back pretty quickly. And just to bring it home and put it into the 3D world that we live in, your wife walked through the door and then shared the exact same message with you, which is very poignant and beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. It's hard to talk about sometimes, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, it is. Again, thank you for making a safe space where that's okay to talk about. That,
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't. I don't want it to make it sound like it was overnight transformation. Like I still can flip back and get this wrong, but I remind myself every day now, and it's made me a better leader. It's made me a better business owner and better human. I show up better for even my friends, and so it's. I don't know if I ever would have learned that. I think if I would have stayed in corporate and I can continue to see a bonus and paycheck happen because I'd put in more hours than everyone else and work harder than everyone else and be stressed all the time, I may have never learned
Hmm.
it because I was getting rewarded, right? So it's hard to
Right.
see that. And I think it would have taken me stepping out, becoming a full time entrepreneur to actually have this even happen. And like it was my rock bottom
Mm.
moment in my entrepreneurial journey, but it ended up being what kind of pivoted me or moved me on a different trajectory to really find some healing that I don't know if I would have ever found in my life if it weren't for this.
I mean, as much as we wish those moments aren't happening when they're happening because they're painful, it's truly the place where the gems are. As much as, not to say that you can't have healing without
Of
pain, like I
course.
don't believe that. There's always the opportunity of healing in the pain, is what I'm trying to share. So, one, like amazing that you were able to again ask the question and realize that something wasn't working anymore, and that you want to break a cycle, because those are the hardest things. I feel like we all have a cycle or two or three in our lives that is part of our like big growth journeys, and some of us never get to break the cycle, and it is a core value for a reason, because we need to come back to it and go, okay, those are reminders. They're not there because you're like, I solved the problem, this is for everyone else now. Like that's not why we have them, right? It's really for us and for everyone to get on board with this mindset around what's important.
Yeah,
So
100%. That's it. And my core values, like I don't have them posted for everyone in the world to see. They're for me. And so it's my own reminder of the transformations happened in my life.
yeah, I haven't done that for myself in a long time, in really sort of deciding what we have a very small team too in my agency. And now would be a good time to create a few core values. I might put love at the top of mine too. And the compassion conversation really ties into that for me as well. It's like, where am I not loving myself because I'm unable to make space for these people in the ways that they're asking? And I had to really question that. And it really came back to where I was afraid of something within myself and not making space for that part of myself and not loving that part of myself. And that's what I discovered through that. So these moments like come up in these places sometimes when we are engaging with a process that allows for that. And business is a landscape that shows us who we are on a daily basis and where we're at on a daily basis. And I think podcasting mirrors that quite a bit, actually, because we're here with other people. We're having to curate something together. And it's just sort of an interesting thing. It's interesting, Alex. I had a question around your ability to really create self care and boundaries. And that's how I've always seen you. So hearing this story really helps me realize that, one, that we're all human and that we're all going on a journey that is continuous and ever evolving. And I'm also realizing, like, when did I start to notice this about you where you really had really strong boundaries? That has been an evolution over time, too. So the new question is this part of that? Because I notice you're very good at, how you spend your time, who you let in to spend time with and like with your schedule and how you do business. And what most of us struggle with, or I should say a lot of us struggle with this level of curating our time and energy. Is that part of this for you, or was that always kind of part of your journey?
It's funny that you say, not funny, it's just interesting to hear that. Like that you're like, oh, I kind of always thought this was always how you were. Somebody yesterday, I was in a mastermind and somebody said something that I wrote down like physically on paper. Like I didn't type it up. I was like, this is so good. I have to write this down. And he said, typically the people we see around us that look the strongest are the ones that are hurting the most. And it's one of those things that like
Mm,
I've kind of always, people have always been like, man, your work-life balance is like this. And like the reality is like, I maybe even would have agreed with you, but it wasn't, right? Like, and I just didn't know. So
yeah.
for me, I will say this. I've always been really good about understanding how to make space for my creativity to thrive. I'm a creative person in Barcy, nowhere near your level. Like I pull from you for inspiration and things to help me. So like I look at your ability to create, I'm like, wow, that's amazing, right? But I
That's
do know
funny.
that if I don't create space for it, I'm not good at it. So by my own default, I will turn back into like an administrative analytical type person. I'm going to make sure my inbox is always at zero and that I always have all these tasks done, right? But when I build my day intentionally around saying this block right here is protected and this is for my creative endeavors, because at the end of the day, creativity is actually what entrepreneurship and business is all about. There's never been something that's been made that has made money or served people that hasn't been creative, right? Because if it's not creative, then it's already in existence, right? So if I told you I invented a way for you to talk to your friends via phone, you'd be like, it's already been done, right? Like it's because someone creatively said there's got to be a way that we can connect the world on a deeper level, right? And so I understand the importance of it. So for me, I have very strict guardrails around when I'll accept phone calls, around when even people on my team are allowed to talk to me or me talk to them, because I want them to have their creative space as well. And for me, everything comes back down to a calendar. And so internally, we always talk about we honor our calendars. Like we make sure that the calendars, whatever's blocked there, we honor what's been put there. So for me, there's certain times a day where I have office hours, which means anybody can walk in and ask me anything. And that's typically when I'm shooting for inbox zero. It's my goal. And if no one walks in, maybe I get there, right? But if you walk in, you need something, we're gonna have a conversation. But there's other blocks that say, hey, like example, right now, this has been on here. And an hour before you and I got on a call together, I wanted to start going through everything you do and get ready for today because that's, I think, is the way to do it. No one bothered me for that last hour. And they know that. Like that's Alex's creative time for how he's going to show up during his time with Barcy and her listeners. And so I think that protecting that time by time blocking, if that works for you, it's just important.
Mhm.
Like we want to prioritize what's important to us, right? So we need to actually make it a priority by doing something to keep it in front of us, keep it front of mind. So for me, everything runs off the calendar and the whole team sees it and knows exactly when we can bother each other and when we shouldn't bother each other.
I love that. Yeah, I see that. And I see you doing that just in the way that you create the processes too that are outfacing that I can see, right, as an outsider from your business. So great advice. I've done time blocking before too. And there are times when I fall off of it because circumstances will change and I have to kind of redo, like rethink how it all comes together. But which it just begs another question. A lot of creatives have a hard time protecting their creativity because coming back to this idea of worth and this idea of like what's worthy and what's more important is another way to say it. Oftentimes creatives are told that like it's not important. It's not something that should sit at the top of the list. Do you have anything for them to try to make that more part of their value system?
Yeah, I think that first and foremost, we all have to know that in our DNA, like greatness and creativity is within us. It's there. And no one is born in a non-creative manner. It's a learned habit to not be creative. And there's actually been studies done
Mhm.
on that. And I'm totally blanking on the guy's name who did like the really big study on this. But basically, you're born creative and it's worked out of you over time by the society that we live in. So it makes sense that people that have learned it over their entire life are going to tell you that that's not important because that is what they've been told since they first entered the school system, at least in the United States where I happen to be, right? Like that's just kind of been the idea of it. And it's not with ill intent. It's just that, hey, you need to learn how to read. You need to learn how to write. You need to know the basics of history. You need to know like economics. And you know, like, here's all the things that you need to know. And it needs to all fit in this box because that's how we can make you a mature adult that can go function well. And that's all well meaning, but at the cost of us suppressing our creativity. So it makes sense that people would look at that and say, that's not important. But look at what they're doing. Are they satisfied? Are they happy in their lives? Are they challenging the status quo in any way? And I'm not saying to look down on them, but they might just be following the plan that the world has for them. And if there's one plan the world has for us, it seems to be to like drive us through just a mundane life as fast as possible. And I found that
Ugh.
people that are creative, they're saying, no, I want more. I want something different. Don't let that be taken from you. That is greatness. And that is what changes the world, makes it a better place. Protect that time and protect your mindset about it. Don't let other people tell you that's not great. Could you imagine if, I don't know who the team was that worked on the iPhone originally? I'm sure someone said, this is dumb. No one wants that. Right? Like I use the iPhone as an example because like at least in the United States, like that's the thing. Like I can't go anywhere without watching 20 people on their phone, including in a car while it's moving at 100 miles an hour, right? Like it's everywhere. And somebody just said, no, I'm going to challenge the status quo on this. So I just want to encourage you again, greatness and creativity is within you. Continue to let that breed, let that grow. And if you're like, well, that's what I'm good at, then maybe what you need to time block isn't your creative time. Maybe you need to time block your administrative time, the time to get things done. Flip the script.
Yeah.
For me, my default is to go back to inbox zero and all my administrator functions. If you're the opposite and your default's to go to more creative, then start scheduling the stuff that you're saying, I actually have to do something here, right? Like I can't just think creatively. I have to put this on paper. I have to start putting into action. Then maybe that's what you're going to time block. It's going to work different for everybody. Maybe calendars don't work. Maybe it's a checklist, physical, maybe it's digital, maybe it's an accountability partner. What matters is going out and figuring out what works for you and where you need the help.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you for that. I'm going to sit with that and let that sort of sink into my own body because it's, as a creative, I kind of go back and forth on trying to prioritize the business. And then there's the default beliefs about what that means versus, bringing something to life and trusting that that's what people want. And, all of the things that come with the mindset required to kind of protect the time in either category. So thank you for that. I heard that for someone who is wanting to lean into their passion, wanting to kind of break out of what you just described, this sort of idea of just fitting into the box, doing what you're told. Here's the lie that I think a lot of us believe, not unwarranted by any means, but we're good at a lot of things, but that what I call zone of excellence can teach us that that's all we're good at, or that's all worth, because it gets rewarded. Like you said, like when you were in corporate, you were getting rewarded for a lot of these things that you were very good at. But when you went into entrepreneurship, you really got to lean into your creativity, and there was this expansiveness that didn't exist in the same way. And you were able to really explore your passion, your voice, your other people, like all of these things through business and podcasting in our case. For someone who is wanting to do that, what would you suggest? Where should they start?
I think the very first place to start is with your friends and family. Ask them what makes you unique. Ask them what you're really good at. Like you say, hey, what am I really good at? Like, or what makes me unique? Or is there anything about me that you don't see with other people necessarily? If you're really blessed, you'll have friends that tell you that. I remember a friend one time told me I was a great visionary leader. This is before I was even in management or anything like that. And I had never thought about it. And there was a room, it must have been 15 of us. Everyone's like, oh yeah, Alex is like the best at that. I literally was blind to it. No idea. And I was like, what? Why? And people started sharing reasons. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I guess I just didn't think about it. And I think one of the biggest problems we have is our own self-awareness of realizing what we're actually really gifted with and what makes us so unique. Asking this question with the intent of not getting a pat on the back, but to learn something can really go a long way. So you're not saying it like, oh, Barcy, tell me good things about me, right? Like that's not what we're doing here right now. But it's like, what makes me like unique, or what is about me that really stands out? Asking this question among people that know you, and even acquaintances in some place, if you feel that they're going to be truly honest, see what they come up with. And not everyone's going to have something. Some people are not good at this at all. So maybe like, I don't know, you're good at this, right? But some people are going to straight up tell you something and you're like, oh, that's it. Then lean into it. That's when you have to start doing the work. Sit down and reflect on that. Think about it. Again, when someone told me I was a great visionary leader, I wasn't really doing anything in that capacity at that point. But I'll tell you what, when I went and sat down and thought about that and learned what that meant, I stepped more into that. And ultimately, it showed up in my life. And so I think that first thing I tell anyone to do is start getting around people that will tell you what it makes you, what makes you unique, what makes you special. And as soon as you find out what that is, so once you like go through and document it, start sharing that, start talking about it. Get that message out into the world, whether it's just among your friends, family, wherever it is, like start practicing that and see if it has any wings.
That's a great one because one, a lot of people talk about mentorship. It's kind of a luxury. Not everyone has that luxury. And that's a great way to kind of curate sort of a mentality around mentorship for yourself with the people that you love and trust. to help kind of bring, plant the seed, if you will, which is what a lot of mentors offer, I think, is that planting of the seed of believing in yourself before you do, or knowing something about yourself before you see it. That's what mentors have done in my life, at least.
Same.
Yeah. So that's a great sort of like hack for mentorship. I kind of like starting to see yourself in a new light and then stepping into it because it does create motion. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Okay, so back to podcasting for just a moment. If someone wanted to try that for the first time, guesting has gotten really popular as an avenue to kind of step in and dip your toe in. There's so many podcasts now prior to compared to when I was first getting started. Would you suggest that? Would you suggest they host? Do you think it depends? Like, what do you think they should do?
I always at this point suggest starting with being a guest on at least one show. And the reason for that is I've met some people who started a podcast and they stopped immediately. I was like, why? Like, I hated it. I'm like, oh, well,
Oh,
we should test the waters first then, right? Like it's kind of test driving a car before you drive it versus driving it and realizing you don't like it and trying to take it back because that doesn't really work. You're going to waste some money and time in the process. I always tell people, like, start with being a guest on one show. And listen, you're not going for the top shows in the world. Get on one of your friends' shows. If you know someone who has one, find a show. I mean, I'm not telling you to use PodMatch, but a service like PodMatch, go look that up on any search engine AI and see what alternatives exist. Go find something and give one a shot when you feel you have a message worth sharing. Like you're not just using them as a test ground, right? But see if you enjoy the medium. And if you do, and you feel that you have a message that you know needs to be out in the world and there's not really anything delivering that really well, then maybe starting a show is a good idea. I would definitely suggest before you either of these things, you talk to Barcy. You all know Barcy. She's here with me right now. She'll kind of set you straight a little bit with this stuff because it's not that it's difficult. It's just there's a right way to get into it. So you're not hitting your head against the wall because that is what happens for most people who are like, I don't understand how to even break into this. Barcy will hopefully give you the shortcut. I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot there, but maybe a little bit, right?
no. I have a nice free offer at the moment that they'll hear when they
Good.
listen to this
Okay, good. All
episode. So
right.
thank you for that.
Good.
And I'll say that for you too, like it's such a good exercise when you are trying to figure out how to talk about your message or what your message might be. Podmatch itself, like if you sign up for the platform, the intake form alone as a guest will really help you have to answer some questions that will kind of form your talk for you in a way. Like it's a really good exercise in general. It mirrors kind of what I would have someone do if they wanted to start a show or, came to me with like just wanting to figure out what their message is, which is what I specialize in too. And kind of pulling that out of someone. And just by filling out the form alone, like that's a great way. I think it's a good way to get started too. So Podmatch is a lovely tool as a self-discovery moment as well. And then you get to test it out and see, if it resonated or how it went or what kind of questions they asked you based on how you presented yourself. Because that's good feedback too. Like, oh, that's not what I thought that meant. They went in a whole different, direction. They interpreted what I shared in a really different way. And then it's like, it's just a good way to kind of like dip your toe in and get some feedback too. So pod match it up.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. When I had to go through the exercise, I was like, oh, this is like a long process. I have to like carve out time to intentionally do this well. And I do this stuff day in and day out. And it was still like a moment of reflection for me. So it's just a good exercise, I think, in general.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. That was kind of the idea behind it. Is it was going to take a little bit of work. And we regularly still get emails where people say that was like really eye-opening about myself. Like we get people saying, oh, like, thanks for that. It was a bonus. I didn't know I was getting that. So yeah, that is definitely
Yeah.
part of it, the process very intentionally.
I know. And I say I know because I know how intentional you are about everything that you decide to create. And this conversation is such a testament to that as well. Well, I know like it's podmatch.com, but aside from that, how can people connect with you? What's the best way to kind of be in touch or to experience what you have going on?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity again to be here. This was truly an honor. If anyone's interested in chatting with me or seeing what I have going on, it's actually podmatch.com/free is where I'd send you. That'll kind of give you some quick ideas, whether you're a guest, a host, aspiring guest, aspiring host. If you're like, I don't even know if I want to get into this, it'll have something there for you that you can kind of read and look through. It doesn't ask for your email address or anything like that. It's just a very quick way to help out, and that's podmatch.com/free. But I recommend hanging here with Barcy. Barcy, you do incredible work. I got to share multiple things today. I've 600 plus podcasts as a guest, and I've never gotten to share before. So again, just you're an absolute gift. Thank you so much for what you do here.
Thank you so much. It's the feeling is so mutual and wow, 600 plus guesting spots. That is a lot. On that note, thank you, Alex. This was beyond a pleasure.
Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to the Boss Goddess podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you're inspired and ready to take action on bringing your passion to life with podcasting, then be sure to get my free Activate Your Passion with Podcasting blueprint at boss-goddess.co/activate to get started. That link is also in the show notes, but here it is again, boss-goddess.co/activate. And I'll see you on the inside.